If you've ever started warming up your voice and thought, am I doing this right? Should I be doing different exercises in a different order? Why does this feel so complicated? This episode is going to simplify that. Because warming up your voice doesn't need to be perfect or technical or impressive. It just needs to help you reconnect with your voice and get it moving again. Welcome to Singer-Songwriter, a space to reconnect with your voice, your music, and the songs waiting to be written. I'm Lainey, singer and songwriter, voice and creativity coach. If you've ever dreamed of writing and singing your own songs, but doubt or perfectionism keeps getting in the way, then grab that notebook full of ideas. It's time to open your voice, trust your sound, and express yourself freely. Your songs are waiting. Let's bring them to life. There was a time when I avoided warming up altogether. Not because I didn't care about my voice or know how to or what it takes to prepare the voice for singing. It was because I was trying to do it perfectly. I thought I needed the right exercises in the right order and to do it exactly the same every day. I would stop and start over if something didn't feel right. I was constantly checking myself and adjusting and second guessing. And all of that thinking, it just created so much tension in my body that I was actually making it harder to sing. So what finally changed for me was letting go of that need to control it. I had been trying to force my voice into submission. Like, you will do what I say when I say. And that wasn't working for me. It led to almost a magnetic repulsion, like the opposite, not magnetic, like pushing away. I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to warm up my voice because it didn't feel good. It just felt like a process of tension and noise and force rather than a gentle opening. Once I started letting my warm-up be flexible, creative, and different every day, I started to feel the ease and the freedom of singing again. So it's less about the drills and more about making music. Because that's what we're doing here, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught up in our head when we're doing these technical vocal warm-up exercises and we're trying to get it right. But what's actually needed is surrender. And if you are in that place right now of, wanting to trust your voice, but you're not quite sure how to listen to it yet, that's exactly what we work through in my 1-hour vocal breakthrough sessions. That's where we take you out of that overthinking loop and the noisy cycle of the inner critic and help you find a way of working with your voice that actually feels natural and grounded and supportive and free. If that is something you are wanting, book a session with me. Let me help you develop a really natural, easy way of warming up your voice that works for you And not just on your good voice days, but also on those days where your voice feels a little bit tired, lethargic, frustrated, even on those days. So if this is something that you're wanting, you can learn more and book your session at reawakenyourvoice.com/coaching. Warming up your singing voice is not about having the perfect routine or the perfect sequence of vocal warm-up exercises. It's not about doing it right. This is about learning how to listen to your voice and learning how to respond to what it needs. And by listening to your voice, I don't just mean with your ears, listening to the sound and the tone quality. I mean listening to your voice as a whole instrument, and that includes your body. Listening to what your body needs that particular day in that specific moment, and learning how to let that guide you to open your singing voice. Listening and feeling for a specific sensation that you become really familiar with through practice over time. So this is a practice, of course. And as you go deeper into that practice, you learn how to listen to your voice, learn how to respond, and intuitively follow that, letting your body, your instrument itself, be your guide. Because your voice is different every day. Yes, we are trying to develop consistency in the tone quality, but this is a living, breathing human instrument. So it is subject to the elements or your day-to-day life, your real life. So your practice routine or your warm-up rituals, they need to be able to adapt and be flexible from day to day. The goal isn't control. It's connection to your voice, and consistency over time. So you're developing that consistency. So you have this through line, but you learn to move with it, to work with it as it changes from day to day. So I have a very loose 4-part warm-up for you. And each step of this 4-part warm-up is open to your own creativity and your own intuition and what you need in that session. So first we start by awakening the body and the voice. This is very simple, very gentle, maybe just doing some lip trills or gentle humming, and all in a very comfortable range, right in the middle, maybe somewhere around your speaking voice or a little bit higher. You can also do some light stretching, of the physical body, stretching the arms above the head, stretching the ribs and the face, the jaw, all of those parts of your body that go into making your sound. And I want to be clear here that you're not singing yet. You are just waking things up. So as you vocalize, doing these lip trills and doing the humming, you don't even have to have a specific note in mind. You're just kind of like sliding around, playing, exploring, just touching on different parts of your range to activate them. And then we move on to the second part, and that is tone. finding your sound. I like to do this through vocal toning. You can move from voiced consonants like M, N, V, Z, and move through those into an open vowel like ma. It's nice to start with the more open ones like ah or o. And then as you ease into that, you can do more of the closed oo or e. But you're just playing with vowel sounds to warm up the voice. You can start with one sustained pitch in the mid-range or like a comfortable range, a comfortable note, and just sing through that on all the vowels. And then a little bit at a time, you stray from that or stretch beyond that. So if starting with that first sustained tone, maybe you go up in half steps, go down in half steps, take a whole step up, a whole step down, move in thirds. You're gradually widening the gap between notes or using bigger intervals. And as you do this, this is where you start to feel resonance. You start to find your alignment, find that ease, that sense of ease as you're singing. So this is a very exploratory phase of the warm-up process. You're just kind of playing with vowel sounds, opening up the voice, and allowing it to be easy and gentle and comfortable. No need to push. No need to stretch to the extremes of your range. You're just exploring. And then as we move into the third part, we are starting to add more energy, more variation, and this is where we start to move. So we're talking agility and range, faster rhythms, moving from more legato to staccato, that short, detached articulation, bringing more energy into it. And you can use some simple scales or arpeggios, gradually widen the range. So you are, stretching beyond that comfortable mid-range and touching on some higher notes, touching on some lower notes, just getting the voice moving and building flexibility, introducing more energy to the tone and to the exercises themselves. But they're all guided by your intuition. There's no set arpeggio or scale and do it in this specific order. How I am approaching this is by listening to what my voice needs in the moment. And then comes the final part of this warm-up. And this is the part that most people skip. Like, they don't think of this as the warm-up. But here in part 4 is where we make music. And yes, we are still in the warm-up process. Choose a song you love or a song that you've finished and you feel really good about that song. It's easy. It comes so naturally. Maybe it's just something familiar or something that feels good. And you let that actually be part of your warm-up. You use that song to warm up your voice. But what is essential here is that you are tapping into that creative part of you that is making music. This can take you out of that overthinking mind where you're just trying to get it right and have your technique on point, and you let go of all that and come back to the music. Your voice lives, it comes alive inside the music, not just exercises. The exercises are tools, really powerful tools, but they're a means to an end. They help to open the voice so that you can make music in a way that translates the emotion in a really powerful way and a really effective way, that makes people feel things. And to make that connection, to make people feel things, you yourself have to be connected. You yourself have to be feeling something that's transferred through your voice. So if rather than being totally immersed in that feeling, you are totally immersed in your thoughts of, am I doing this right? That's where we get stuck. That's where it starts to feel tense and not fun anymore. So as you go through this 4-part warm-up, what you're actually listening for, instead of like, am I doing this right? Constantly checking yourself. Instead of that, shift to asking yourself, where does it feel easy? Where does it feel connected? Where do I feel that pocket of resonance where it's just ringing and everything's in alignment? That is what you're listening for. And that is the feeling that you want to follow. You want to move through your range from that place of alignment, that beautiful pocket of resonance. And then you ride that pocket up and down the range to find the consistency. And when overthinking creeps in, because it will, that's when you want to switch it up and, maybe switch the exercise, switch the pattern that you're singing, get playful with it, get silly. Maybe you need to shake it out, like physically. Okay, things start to get stuck when we overthink. So loosen it up, find that sense of freedom in your body, and that will help you find that sense of freedom in your voice. You don't need a perfect warm-up. You need one that is responsive. One that responds to your voice, your body, your instrument that day in that moment. You need a warm-up that ebbs and flows and breathes with you in your everyday life. You need a warm-up that is guided by listening, by feeling, by trusting your voice, and also one that is guided by grace. That was such a key that I was missing for so long in my warm-up process. I wasn't giving myself grace. And so I would be forcing it, pushing it, and nothing about that felt like making music. This 4-part process that I've shared today will help you keep music at the center of it all. Creativity, freedom, joy, ease. That is the space you want to live in as you are opening your voice. If you have been feeling disconnected from your voice or unsure of how to work with it from day to day, this is something we can explore together. In a 1-hour vocal breakthrough session, we look at what your voice needs specifically and help you find that sense of ease, consistency, and connection so that you can learn how to listen to your instrument in a deeper way, in a felt sense, in a simple, intuitive, natural way. You can learn more and book your session at reawakenyourvoice.com/coaching. So like I said, your voice doesn't need perfection to open. What your voice really needs is your attention, your musicality, your creativity, and your heart. Thanks for listening, friend. If this episode moved you or inspired you in some way, would you please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or share this episode with someone who's been praying for a vocal breakthrough? Until next time, keep nurturing that song in your heart. Lots of love.